CATT-NW Episode 2, POSB 2025, featuring Dr. Hoby Wedler, Sara Larkin, and Susan Osterhaus.
CATT, Center for Assistive Technology Training Northwest.
Welcome to the CATT-Cast, where we highlight key takeaways and insights from conferences and events that are hosted by our CATT community partners. Whether you made it to the conference or hope to attend next year, we want to celebrate the accomplishments of our partners and spark discussion around education and technology for blind and low vision accessibility. We hope that this podcast may help you connect with a community of practice and, of course, get excited about tech. Enjoy!
Hey friends! Welcome to episode 2 of the CATT-Cast, the podcast where we celebrate connection, community, and all things tech in the world of blindness and low vision education. I'm your host, Techie TVI Heather from CATT Northwest, and I'm so glad you're here. You're part of an incredible community, and today's episode is packed with inspiration and practical ideas you can bring straight into your teaching. So whether you're walking the dog, at the office, driving between meetings, or just here out of curiosity, let's dive in, learn, and grow together. In today's episode, we're diving into highlights from the POSB STEM Institute for Instruction, a special biennial conference all about advancing STEM education for students who are blind or have low vision. This year's event was hosted by the California School for the Blind, CATT Southwest, and CATT Northwest. This event brings together educators from across the country to connect, learn, and share the latest best practices and resources for teaching science, technology, engineering, and math to blind and low vision students. Today's episode is packed with inspiration and practical tools from not one, not two, but 3 incredible voices who are shaping the future for education for students that are blind or have low vision. First up, I'm honored to introduce someone who left a lasting impact on me at this year's POSB's conference, Dr. Wedler. For those that don't know Dr. Wedler, Dr. Hoby Wedler is a blind chemist with a PhD in organic chemistry, an entrepreneur, and a sensory design expert who's redefining how we experience the world. He's teamed up with filmmaker Francis Ford Coppola to create Tasting in the Dark, earned recognition from President Obama, been featured in Forbes, and was named one of Wine Enthusiast's 40 Under 40. But beyond the accolades, what truly sets Hoby apart is his deep passion for creativity, inclusion, and bold innovation. We're also joined today by 2 pioneers in accessible math, Susan Osterhaus from Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and Sara Larkin from Iowa Educational Services for the Blind and Visually Impaired. These 2 are leading voices in math access, and their work on tech checklists and teaching tools is transforming classrooms. They bring decades of experience, passion, and real-world strategies you can use right away. So whether you're a TVI, O&M specialist, parent, student, or advocate, you're going to leave this episode feeling energized, empowered, and ready to raise the bar. Let's dive in. Meow. Thank you all for joining me today. It's truly an honor to have such a powerhouse panel of innovators and educators here. Hoby, let's start with you. Dr. Wedler, I have to start by saying what an absolute honor it is to have you here. And your note at the keynote POSB conference was one of those rare moments that truly shifted how I think about teaching. Your story reminded me of what's possible when we look beyond limits, and you challenged all of us as humans to think and redefine what's possible in life. I jotted down several of your messages so I wouldn't forget them, and I wanted to share them with you today. You said, "You are only disabled as society makes you. You are enough. You are not alone, and be positive, optimistic, and excited about life." Those words really, really stuck with me. And with that in mind, what did it mean to you to speak to a room full of educators, many of whom are directly shaping the lives of students that are blind or have low vision?
First of all, thanks for the invitation. Thanks for that great question. You know, when I was asked by CATT Northwest Director Ting Su to present at the POSB conference this last April, I just thought, what a great opportunity to be able to talk to people who, some might be blind or low vision, but most are sighted. And maybe don't quite know the full benefit of what their students are truly capable of. I was flattered and honored to have an opportunity to demonstrate what their students are capable of with enough hard work and dedication. There's something really special when we get to sit down with a room of educators who are in the trenches, so to speak, working with their students day in, day out, and we can hopefully provide them with strategies to help their students not only survive, but thrive in the classroom setting, in the home setting when it comes to independent living, and in the travel world when it comes to orientation and mobility. And for me, it was all about learning Braille that helped me succeed in high school and college, and even before then. It was the whole trifecta of the assistive tech, Braille, the O&M skills that I learned, and independent living skills. These are the things that really helped me step away from home when I was 18 and go to college. And being able to share those messages with a room of educators and show them that not only their students are enough and not alone, but they're enough and they're not alone. And we're here to support each other. That's what this is all about, is coming together and finding common ground and really supporting each other in every way, shape, form possible.
Absolutely. I agree with coming together and supporting one another. And I do recall during your keynote speech that you did say that some of the most successful people that are blind or have low vision have really strong independent living skills and O&M skills.
I've worked with a couple of blind people who happen to be really good academically, really strong scientists in their own right. But then when it comes down to even pouring a glass of water or traveling from their college campus back home, it's nearly impossible. And it makes it hard for them to not only fit in, but to excel in this world that we call home. And a lot of us are blind people living in a sighted world, so we have to learn how to adapt. And if there's nothing else that people get from today, and that hopefully was gleaned in my keynote, is that there is no substitute for hard work and taking on challenges. Even the little challenges, when you feel a little bit of success, it just feels so sweet and so good. I really do think that all these skills come from the trifecta: the independent living, the orientation mobility, and the classroom work.
I totally agree. Braille, orientation mobility, and independent living skills are so important and part of the expanded core curriculum that we have a legal and ethical responsibility to teach. I love how you're celebrating the little challenges. Can you also share a moment in your journey where you had to confront challenging assumptions?
So I was motivated very strongly by my parents. My mom actually knew that she wanted to do something to do with teaching when I was born and was thinking about going back for her master's in special ed. I was born, I happened to be blind. She did not know any blind people beyond that point, but said, well, wouldn't it be smart of me to get training specific to teaching students who are blind or have low vision and becoming a teacher of the blind or visually impaired, or a TVI. And she was a TVI for 30 years. It was incredible to have a role model. My father also was a great role model for me. And he told me that whatever I wanted to do, they might think it impractical, but if it was a real passion of mine and I was able to work hard enough at it, they had no problem with me trying, but they were very eager to point out that you might not always succeed. And I really did fall in love with high school chemistry. And I had an instructor tell me when I applied for honors chemistry that this really didn't make sense and this wasn't necessarily something I should study. And I thought about, okay, I got to just take the test. So I took the test to place in or not place into the class, and I got the high score on the test. I think she kind of had to say, oh, shoot, maybe I do have to accommodate you. And we figured out ways that I would do lab work. And my whole MO, guys, is that I don't want to make it a burden. So the person who I found to help me out in that class as my eyes in the laboratory and someone who would sit and write my answers down as I would dictate them for exams and certain problem sets here and there, is I found a student who excelled in that course, that honors chemistry course the year before me, who was in her senior year of high school and needed some TA hours. So she was eager to do it because she got her time and hopefully she found it enjoyable to work with me. I certainly found it enjoyable to work with her. And we were able to make things accessible. But the whole time I was in class, the instructor would say, chemistry is everything. This is to the whole class as she was lecturing. We eat it, we drink it, we live it, we breathe it. You should all think about studying chemistry beyond that sort of boring prerequisite that you might think of chemistry as being, when you get to college, just as sort of the gateway to the class that you maybe really want to take. And I would talk to her alone and say, I really understand what you're saying, and I want to study chemistry further. And she would say, oh, Hoby, chemistry is impractical. That really doesn't make sense for you to take chemistry at all in college. And I thought, okay, there's got to be a way I can get her to understand and become a true ally of mine. And it was the second semester when I walked into her classroom, and it was early in the morning when I knew no other students would be there. And I explained to her that I know that chemistry is visual and we need our eyesight to understand certain things that are happening in the lab and to measure dangerous chemicals out and all these things. But the truth is that none of us can see atoms. And chemistry really is a cerebral science. So to me, that really shaped my career, and it turned this person who was a skeptic into 1,000% ally of mine, who's still a good friend and one of my absolute biggest supporters to this day. The other brief experience that I'll tell you about has to do with orientation mobility. And I had a really tough but really excellent O&M instructor from my 10th grade to my 12th grade year in high school. She taught me to walk from my school to the local bus stop. And then we worked a lot on the route from school to my house, which is a 2-mile route. It's a longer route. And when I took that route myself in the third week of my junior year of high school, completely alone, I had this epiphany. I can get from home to school. I can get from school to the local bus station and to all my shops that I frequent downtown. So that means that I can get from home anywhere I want. And the world really is my oyster. And that was the inspiration I needed to go on and go to college and know that I could do things independently. And it's funny how it's these little wins, these little epiphanies when you realize, okay, I'm doing this and it's going to be fine.
I think that's amazing. And like any of us, we have all experienced challenges, failures, and successes. And I love how you continue to celebrate those little wins. There's another space that I would like to talk about, which is your brilliant concept of tasting in the dark, which is flipping the script on sensory experience. Can you tell us how that collaboration with Coppola came to be and what message you hope people take away from it?
That's a great question, and thank you for asking that. So I actually have always been super passionate about wine. When I tasted my first sip of really good wine, when I may or may not have been 21, I realized that it was the closest I had ever come to the experiences that are described to me when people look at things with their eyesight. And I realized that I could describe these flavors, not because I was some weird person who had this weird, strange ability to do that, but because I've been practicing training my palate since I was a kid, cooking avidly in my parents' kitchen. And a couple of friends knew that I was into wine. I'd taken some wine appreciation and introductory winemaking courses at the University of California, Davis, where I did my college education. And I'd actually helped a gentleman by the name of Chris Downey, who's a dear friend of mine, sort of deal with his blindness and come to terms with the fact that he was a sighted architect, lost his sight in a matter of weeks, and he could have laid in bed and felt sorry for himself, or he could have gotten up after his surgery where his benign brain tumor was removed and start a life as a blind architect. And I like to think that I was able to just help him in a small way with seeing that life is totally amazing after blindness. So he designed Francis Ford Coppola's winery in Sonoma County here in Northern California in 2006 and did a lot of the architectural work on that beautiful building that still exists today. And Coppola knew that he had lost his sight and came to him in 2011 and said, do you know anyone who would be interested in hosting a truly blind wine experience? Coppola had done something in Asia that felt kind of gimmicky, in a dark room where he had to walk across a room and find a little treat in front of him. And he thought, we can do this, but we can do it a lot better at our winery. And when Coppola called me himself and said, hey, are you interested in developing this experience for me? When Francis Ford Coppola calls, you say yes. And then if you're me, you hang up and freak out about what you just said yes to. But what was amazing is Francis really gave me the reins with the experience and said, you innovate this yourself. And we designed an experience for consumers, for their hospitality team, where we start out by talking about, number one, how wine is a true form of art. Number two, how when we're sighted and we look at a lot of art, we're very objective. We look at it and we say, oh, that's a beautiful painting, I love it. Or you might look at something on someone's wall and say, oh my God, how did they decide they like that? That's absolutely hideous, right? But with wine, my whole MO is that I want to make wine exciting. And what I tell people is wine is just like art. It's just that we use our eyesight to take in 85 to 90% of our surroundings, which means that we have 4 additional perfectly good senses that we use to take in only 10 to 15% of our surroundings. So the way to get good at deciding what you like when it comes to wine and food and all these things is just to try it and practice more. So it's been a really special experience specializing in food and drink, but outside the food and drink world as well, just with developing this amazing empathy. So I love that experience, and I love just getting people in society to understand that being blind is not a big deal. You know, it's a nuisance, but to me, it's just like having brown eyes or blue eyes. It's just a trait. I just want to say that it all comes down to having a positive attitude and making it so much fun for people to want to help and to want to work with you. So I have worked with other students who are blind or have low vision in the past who are very demanding about what they need, what's not working for them, and they kind of go the litigation route. And my whole thing is that I could act that way, but what good would it do? My motto is, I think you may have heard me say this during my talk, is educate, don't litigate. Society just doesn't know what we can do. And when they're trying to be too helpful or not helpful enough, they just don't know. So it's our job as teachers of the blind and as blind people just living in society ourselves to have the hearts of teachers and to show people what we can do in a really positive and unassuming way that just makes it fun. You know, if there's something to laugh about, let's laugh about it. If there's a teachable moment, let's work with that. So people in the wine industry and all over tend to be worried about, oh, he's blind, how's he going to do this? And then we just go in and we show them, hey, everything's possible. And in the chemistry classroom and laboratory and in high school and certainly in college, what I realized is that it was my job to teach those who I worked with best practices and how to work with a blind person. And it was their job to teach me the subject matter that they knew so well. And it's just about giving and taking and ebb and flow and just doing everything with positivity. And, you know, we're all human. We all have depression. We all have bad days. We all get frustrated. But not letting that frustration show in these sectors that we interact with, and just trying to approach life with love and positivity.
Absolutely. And that was the mind shift that I was hoping that you can share with our listeners today. I am so grateful for you, and I think you're amazing.
You are all amazing, and you're all inspiring. And we just need to find our superpowers in this world and lean into them. And I just want to say to all the teachers, you have the opportunity to make or break your students. If you exude a positive attitude and push them and challenge them, it is going to help them so much. Because oftentimes students that we teach don't have the home life that I was fortunate enough to have. And it kind of falls on us to give them that independence and that way of just being bold and asking questions and getting out there that is so needed to thrive.
Yes, not just survive, but thrive. I love that. I also want to say that as a TVI and an O&M specialist working with students that are blind and low vision, I can speak for all of the others in the field that are listening, and we just want to say thank you for saying those kind words to us. We are responsible for the energy that we bring into our classroom, and we do help shape the way our students view education. So I want to encourage everyone to hear what Hoby had to say and to have a positive mindset and bring positivity into our classrooms.
Again, every teacher out there, every student is enough. None of us are alone, and we're all amazing in some way, and we just have to find that superpower. And don't be strangers. Reach out to me whenever you can. I'm at hoby@hoby.com. That's HOBY at HOBY.com. I would love to hear from each and every one of you and help you through whatever you're dealing with.
Right on. Hoby, thank you so much for sharing your story and takeaways from your keynote message at the POSB STEM Institute. This is a perfect segue to introduce and bring in Sara Larkin and Susan Osterhaus, two leaders whose sessions at POSB were among the most impactful. They've been instrumental in developing the POSB STEM Institute, digital checklists through the Team Initiative, professional development courses for teachers via Project Inspire, and they have also developed the Nemeth Braille Math curriculum, which continues to support educators and learners across the country. Their contributions to the field are truly remarkable, and we're excited to dive into their work today. So Susan, let's begin with you. Can you walk us through how the idea of the POSB STEM Institute came about? What inspired you, Sara, and your team to create it, and how can people benefit from attending it?
Thank you, Heather. I'm so excited to be here today. So let's get into how all this got started. Math teachers at various schools for the blind across the country were seeking a connection to learn from each other and share about teaching mathematics to students who are blind or who have low vision. The principals of Schools for the Blind, or POSB, listened and actually proposed that the first POSB Math Institute for Instruction be held in April of 2011 at the Indiana School for the Blind and Visually Impaired. Volunteers were requested to form that first planning committee, and I represented Texas and Sara represented Iowa. Quite quickly,
Wonderful.
Sara and I were, quote, volunteered, unquote, to be co-chairs of the event. ISBVI provided free lodging in the dorms at the school, rooms for presentations and exhibitors, and a school bus to transport us to and from the NCTM conference. After a successful first POSB STEM Math Institute, we were on our own to schedule any future events with no financial support. Nevertheless,
Wow.
yes, no, that was the hard part. We wanted this to continue. So we got together and we decided we could do it if we did it together, but only every 2 years. And in fact, odd years, which would work nicely because we always like to attend the AER International Conference, which was held every even year. So we thought that could be a good balance.
Wow, it's pretty amazing that you raise your funds and people are donating to this wonderful event. And so, Sara, building on that, why should educators attend the Institute, and what can participants count on by taking away from the experience of attending?
There's really a number of reasons. First, really, participants are able to meet with others that have similar interests in the STEM fields. They also can learn and stay up to date with the newest technology that's coming out in those STEM areas. Of course, teachers can share instructional strategies with each other. And what's funny is it happens both through the sessions and even the conversations between sessions as well. I see lots of collaborations that are formed and that continue even beyond the Institute. So the conversations don't even end at the Institute itself. Participants are also able to connect directly with the developers about what is going well and what's still needed in the field, what needs to be improved. In fact, the Orion TI-84 Plus talking graphing calculator came out of our first institute when many teachers went up to Texas Instruments and asked about their accessibility at the SGTM conference that we attached to, and shared what was needed for the field, what was needed for students that were blind and visually impaired. And at this year's Institute, developers were literally making adjustments and coming up to me during the conference, showing how any issues that there were already changed and corrected and improved right at the Institute and even shortly after, based on the feedback they were getting from the participants.
Wow, that's wonderful information. Thank you so much for sharing that with all of the listeners today. Have you heard, quite possibly, where the next POSB conference will be held?
It's actually going to be in the spring of 2027 at the University of South Carolina Upstate in Spartanburg. And actually, all of the listeners right now are the first ones to find out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Can you talk a little more, Sara, about the biggest shifts you're seeing in how math is being taught?
So one of the biggest shifts, which it did start prior to COVID, but then, boy, it just became widely popular during the COVID time period, was the use of more online math content. That included like digital math textbooks, there's online activities, practice materials in the form of apps and web pages. We're just seeing more of that being used in the classroom. Students are exposed to that digital and online content from an early age, even starting in preschool. But unfortunately, much of the content being used isn't accessible to students who use Braille, especially in the area of math and sciences. Also, even access to technology varies widely from state to state and school to school. So we really wanted to make sure that students were learning the Nemeth code and the technology from an early age so students could keep up with their peers. To do that, we've been involved in some major projects to do that. Along with Tina Hertzberg and Penny Rosenblum, we actually wrote the book Learning and Teaching the Nemeth Code within UAB Context, step-by-step guide that provides opportunities to build those Nemeth code skills and learn about the strategies and resources for teaching it to students. Then we developed also the Nemeth Braille Code curriculum, which we wrote with Tina Hertzberg. It allows teachers to learn along with their students. Sometimes teachers all of a sudden have a student that's using Braille and they might not know the code really well because it's been a while. So that allows the teachers and paraeducators to learn at the same time as their students. Then we became involved in the TEAM initiative. TEAM is Tech Equity and Access in Math through Perkins, which began just in 2023 to develop resources designed to get students the skills they need to explore that digital math curriculum all the way from kindergarten, really pre-K through 12th and even in college and beyond.
Wow. Project Inspire, Team Initiative, your Nemeth Braille Code curriculum, you both have contributed so much to our field. One of my biggest takeaways from the POSB conference were your digital checklists for math as well as for technology. Can one of you talk about how educators can start using the digital checklists or taking courses through Project Inspire?
Well, this is Susan, and I'll go ahead and start with the Project Inspire. Dr. Tina Hertzberg from the University of South Carolina Upstate was awarded funding for a 5-year grant entitled Project Inspire, Increasing the STEM Potential of Individuals Who Read Braille, and that was from 2019 through 2024. And then after that, she not only got this 5-year grant, which is so prestigious, she went back and got a second 5-year grant. And this one is aptly named Project Inspire 2, and it's called Access and Equity in STEM Learning for Individuals Who Read Braille. And it is going from 2024 through 2029. This is what everybody needs to hear right now. All 7 courses, the 3 student activities, and all of the required required materials are available for free. It is on Paths to Literacy, and it's there as a resource under Project Inspire. And I'm going to encourage all of you to go to that website as soon as you finish this podcast and start downloading and using those materials if this is what you need, because they're all there waiting for you to use, and we hope that you will use them.
Sara, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I'll speak to the team initiative. It's really lots of projects in one. We've been working on, as you mentioned, the digital math workflows. And that really is focused not just one direction, but from teacher to student and student back to teacher, to help students learn about the technology that's available, so that they can share what they're doing in the classroom. That allows them to not only access it, but even complete and return assignments. And then the second project we had was the digital math checklist that you mentioned.
Yes.
Really, it tells TVIs about skills that can be taught at each grade level, starting with pre-K, rather than starting later and then trying to play catch up. It's easier to do a smaller number of skills early on and then just keep building on that through 12th grade.
Yes. Whenever I'm doing a training, I like to share your digital checklist with other teachers. One of the reasons is that your checklist can help drive IEP goals. We also know that assessment drives instruction, and so based on the assessment of the skills that your students either know or don't know, they drive the IEP goals, and embedded in those goals are benchmarks that you can use. So not only is your checklist driving IEP goals, it also has benchmarks embedded, and it's just a really great resource.
Oh, I'm so glad. That's exactly what we were hoping for. And we'll continue to improve on those based on feedback that we get from people. So if anybody sees something that they would like to see improved, just let us know, and we're happy to continue to improve on those.
Wow. Thank you both so much. Your work and contribution in the field of math is amazing. This truly has been an inspiring conversation. Hoby, Sara, Susan, thank you for sharing your insights and passion. And for any educator listening, whether you're new to this work or a longtime educator, POSB and similar conferences are where you'll find these tools, where you'll find the networking and the community and the inspiration to keep growing. To our listeners, you are a vital part of this community, and we are grateful that you are here. So please check out the show notes for the links to our guest work, resources, and the Digital Math Checklist project. And don't forget to subscribe to the CATT-Cast so you never miss an episode. And if you found this valuable, share it with someone who could use a little extra tech and teaching inspiration. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, let's keep connecting, keep creating, and keep believing in what's possible. Thank you so much for being here.
The contents of this video were developed through a partnership with the American Printing House for the Blind, APH. CATT Northwest is based at the Washington State School for the Blind, WSSB. Logos, WSSB and APH. The contents of this video were developed under a contract authorized by the Department of Education. However, these contents do not necessarily represent the policy of the Department of Education, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government.